And we are so pleased to have in our studio a gentleman who just does such a great job. We couldn't run these things without him. He knows that. That's why he always comes back. He is Hughes Turner, veteran and SES Executive Director, Chicago VBA Regional Office. How are you, Hughes?
Fine, Cliff. Thanks for having us again.
Always a pleasure to have you. This is what this show is all about. Today we also have Herbert Morris with us, who is a veteran and Vocational Rehabilitation and Employment Officer with the Chicago Regional Office. Mr. Morris, thank you so much.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for being with us. Mr. Morris was appointed to this position in 2014 as the Chicago Regional Office Vocational Rehabilitation and Employment Officer. Previously, he was the Assistant Vocational Rehab and Employment Officer at another regional office. He enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1981, served as a paratrooper. He's already told me to write. He was in the Ray Division. He also served in Iraq and Saudi Arabia during Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and was also stationed in Bosnia. Herbert was a drill sergeant at Fort Jackson and retired from the military as his last duty station at Fort Sill, Oklahoma in 2001. He also is a product of the VA's Chapter 31 program. His first VA position was in 2005 as a vocation rehabilitation counselor at the Detroit area. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm happy to be here. It's a pleasure.
I want to make sure that everybody also knows our call-in number is 312-374-8130. Hugh, we always let you start off on this. What are we going to talk about?
Well, this is a continuation from our last meeting with you all in terms of the services provided by our Vocational Rehabilitation and Employment folks. If I can just set the stage, just put things in context. Herb has brought the operations up significantly in the Chicago area, where we're one of the top performers now in this field. When Herb first came to Chicago, it was a difficult station, difficult job to come to, but he's managed to do well regardless. And for a large portion of the last several years, he was down, what, 5 counselors?
Four counselors.
Yeah, yeah. And despite that, was still able to research the operations within the office and do well. And we're doing better now. And we're almost full up in terms of number of counselors. And so that gives us the right recipe for increased success.
Numbers, yeah. That's just
so
great.
I just want to set the table there.
That's great. That's great. Hughes, we appreciate that. Mr. Morris, go right ahead. Help us.
Well, being a product of this program, I really enjoy what I do, because when I retired out of the military, or close to retirement, I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do once I get out? And that's a scary thought.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of other veterans are going through that right now. So I found out about this program, enrolled, and one of the best things I've ever done. So I enrolled in the program, was able to get my degree, and became a counselor to do the same thing as my counselor at the time in the Voc Rehab program. So I started in Detroit as a counselor, worked for a couple of years, came back to Oklahoma as a counselor, then became an assistant manager in Oklahoma, then came out here to Chicago. So I've been on all sides of the table, been a veteran, been a counselor, now a manager. So I just enjoy giving back. So I really enjoy what I'm doing.
And evidently you're being successful. Tell us how you go about that, because as you stated, and all of us that are veterans understand this. When you're trying to make that decision, am I going to re-up? Am I going to get out? You have all kinds of thoughts going.
Yeah, you try to figure out, well, how am I going to feed my family? I still have to pay the mortgage. I still have to pay the rent. So what I did, I enrolled. What you put into this program is what you get out of it. Okay. So basically, I put 100% because this is it now. I don't have another option. I didn't have college prior to this. I was one of those hua guys from the 82nd, didn't believe in school, didn't believe in college. People that go to school, I always thought they were lazy. That's my thought process.
Airborne.
You know, they just didn't. They just didn't.
Not everybody.
You know, they just didn't.
But
want
a lot. He's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
They just didn't want to work. That's the way I view it. But then, you know, when it came to that time, I'm like, wait a minute, maybe those were the smart guys.
How many years did you put in?
20 years and 6 months.
Whew.
20 years and 6 months.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the best thing decision I made by going through Voc Rehab. So now I want to be a part of that, to be able to give back to other veterans, to help them and to guide them and let them know, hey, you have to do the best. Take advantage of it. This is just not a program where you go and, you know, you get some subsistence allowance and then you still don't go to work. Take full advantage of it. It's a real great program.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do today is kind of talk about the 5 different tracks of the program.
Okay.
Okay.
That'll be great.
So the last time we discussed the overall, we talked about the program overall, but I just want to get into the specifics. For example, if you're found entitled to the program, you could get placed into one of 5 tracks. And the first one is reemployment, and that's normally for National Guards or reservists who had a job prior to being deployed. So, for example, they go to combat, they get injured, they come back, and they have some kind of issue where they can't do their previous job. So we could provide services to that veteran by providing equipment or something to allow them to be able to do the job that they used to do previously. So that's reemployment. So we assist in that area as well. So by providing reasonable accommodation, special type of computer, chairs, whatever it is that they might need to get back to work.
So this is something that they had done before.
Right.
Right.
Get back in the same job they had previously.
Right.
So we work with the employer to help them in that area. Then the next one is rapid access to employment. This track is for folks that already have a college degree, some type of certification, or just don't want to go to school. School's not for everybody. So if a veteran comes and say, you know, I want to go to rapid access, I don't want to go to school, the first thing I ask the veteran is, what do you have to offer the employer? And if they say nothing, I'm like, well, we need to provide some training to you. You have to have something to offer the employer. But if you already have a degree, we'll assist them with straight employment, help them find a job.
So if they do have a degree, you can help them find a job? Yeah.
Yes.
And what about that other person that you were talking about who has not gone to school? What do you do with them in this instance?
Well, we'll send them to school. We provide them.
Okay.
Yes, we will.
Okay, just like
it's their option.
Yeah.
But I will let them know, you know, you need to have something to offer the employer, because even if you get the job, maybe a couple of years down the road, somebody else will come in with a degree, and you don't have one. You might lose that job. So you need to be able to keep the job as well. So it's best to go ahead and get a degree or something like that, some type of certification.
Sure. Okay.
Then the other one is long-term training towards employment. This is the one we do the most. And basically, we send them to school. We pay for everything. Tuition, fees, books, parking if needed, the gown. Veterans should not have to spend a dime in this process. We even provide you with a computer if needed. Okay, so and this is the great thing about this track, unlike the GI Bill or education program, is that we monitor you through the entire program, provide guidance. You meet with your counselor. It could be once a month, once a semester, or once a year, depending on your need. If you need medical assistance, we'll provide it. We'll make referrals to the hospital to make sure you're seen, make sure you're taken care of while you're in the program, to help you to become successful through the program.
That's a great thing.
Yeah.
Long-term training.
Long-term training.
And the veteran pays for nothing.
Nothing. You authorize up to 48 months of training.
Wow, that's great.
And you also get a subsistence or stipend while you're going through the program.
Okay, and stipend through the program.
Now,
how many people know about this? Do the vets that are coming out, are they all made aware?
Yes, we provide information when they're getting out of the military, but you still have a lot of veterans that fall through the cracks that's not getting that information.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah. So,
which is why we like to do what we do here.
Because when I went through, I didn't know about it. I found out about it by accident. You know, so I understand that part of it.
Yeah, because if you're going to be sent to school without costing you anything, and then you know, and getting a stipend in addition to that.
Yeah, you know, before we paid what we call subsistence allowance. That was based on the number of dependents. So for every dependent, you get more money. But then the GI Bill, the veterans found, wait a minute, they're getting more money over here in the GI Bill, so I'm not going to go to Voc Rehab. But this is the program they needed because of their disability. So the VRNE changed it to where the veterans can now choose between the GI Bill rate, BAH rate, or the regular subsistence allowance. So they could choose, they could select which one they want to use, and it's based on the zip code of the training facility. So that's a good thing. So we could get to keep the veterans in this program that need to be in the program. And they don't have to worry about, well, I'm going to go over here because they pay more over there. They could stay here and still get that money.
So they get an option.
So they have an option.
Yeah, okay. They have an option, but are they made aware of this option? I mean,
yes. Yes.
Okay.
We provide them with that option during orientation. When they meet with the counselor, they have to sign the paper saying, you know, I want to select this option. But the only thing is you have to have some Chapter 33 time remaining in order to qualify to get that rate.
Okay.
Okay. But it's a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly sounds like it.
Then the other, and the good thing about this program is, you know, if let's say a veteran's from New York and just happen to be going through the program here in Chicago, if they decide, you know what, I want to move back home to New York, that's not a problem. We could transfer the file, transfer the case back to New York and continue the program there. So all they have to do is let their counselor know. We'll contact the receiving station. Hey, we have this veteran here. They want to return home, and no problem. We transfer it back to that station. They could pick up the program there. So it's a good deal.
It certainly is. Herbert Morris, we are so pleased to have him here giving us all this great information. It is really, really helpful to know that people have this ability to take advantage of all of these wonderful programs. I wonder how many of those who are actually eligible, Hughes, really take advantage of it. Do you have any way of tracking that?
I personally do not know, you know, what those global figures may be. I do know that more information is getting out. We try to do that at the transition points now as people make a decision to leave uniform. I think the last time we were here, we mentioned that there was a notable here in Illinois, Senator Tammy Duckworth, who was a participant in the program here in Chicago. And look what happened as a result of her participation in the program now.
Yeah, she did all right, didn't she? That's great. So it's just that, Herbert, we don't really know. We just know how, we know the successes, but we don't know how many people don't take advantage.
No, we don't know how many people don't take advantage.
Because I know you all reach out. Guess what you folks do well.
We reach out, but part of the concern with some veterans with disabilities is that a lot of them don't want to be told what to do, so they go to the GI Bill. So they just go to school. But with us, we monitor you. We make sure you're getting you're getting your treatments and stuff like that. So it's a lot of them, you know.
Just to make sure people understand that. And by the way, let me mention too our call-in number. Always the call-in number is 312-374-8130. If you'd like to ask these great gentleman a question. Just to make sure everybody knows about the GI Bill, but a lot of folks don't know exactly what that is, Mr. Morris. You know what I'm saying, as compared to the other. Can you just briefly say that?
Well, the GI Bill, there's more information out there about that. You see it on billboards,
right.
Everywhere you go. You see it in commercials sometimes. Verily, we're working on that. During my last conference a couple months ago, that was one of the discussions we had, that we need to sell our program more, we need to publicize it more. So we're aware of the issue, and they're working on getting it out there. Yeah, okay. So they're really working on pushing it out there now.
Let's take a caller for our guest. Emmanuel is with us. Emmanuel, thank you for calling America's Heroes Group.
Hey, my pleasure.
Thank you.
I always get a lot of great information from you guys, Cliff.
Thank
as
you.
a veteran, you know, a lot of things I didn't know over the years, you know. And matter of fact, you telling me new stuff every time I listen. You know, I find out something new. You know, I've been a veteran, man, for 40 years now. and I'm telling you, man, it's wonderful. It's helpful. And I appreciate you. And another thing, Cliff, I just love hearing your voice, man. And I miss you on regular daily radio. So it's my opportunity to catch you too. So thank you, and thank your guests for the great information. And I'm going to take advantage of everything y'all talk about.
You're great, man.
Make sure you do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to do that, my brother.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang up and listen to some more.
Yeah. Okay, man. Hey, thank you for your call.
Yeah, man. Yep.
America's Heroes Group Roundtable with partner Chicago Regional Veterans Benefits Administration. That's what we are doing right now. And we appreciate, of course, Emmanuel calling in and telling us that he gets more information. And I want to tell you, Emmanuel, I'm a veteran. I get more information too, you know. Yes.
We have two other areas we need to cover.
Right, okay, go right ahead.
So we covered 3 tracks. There's still 2 remaining. The other one is self-employment. There's some veterans that want to do self-employment. And just to let them know, most small businesses only last about 5 years. You have to be motivated. You have to have that drive. And so that's one of our tracks for those who want to do self-employment. And so one of the requirements we ask is for the veteran to have a business plan. You have to have a business plan. Okay, and then we get them hooked up with the Small Business Administration that will assist them with that as well. We don't provide funds for the business. We don't buy vehicles, buildings, and so forth. But we can provide some short-term training, help them with some type of certification or short-term training on business classes to help them to learn how to run a business. So that's another good track that we have. And the last one is independent living services, and that's for that track is for veterans whose disabilities are too severe to where they cannot work. So we assist them with providing independent living to help them, so they don't have to depend as much on their spouse or relatives or friends. We provide stuff like raised toilet seats, widen your doorways, reachers, things that you need to live more independently. We may not be able to get you totally 100% independent, but we do our best to get you to that to the best point that we can.
So that's interesting. Well, the self-employment, that's a great thing.
Yes,
you're doing that and giving the help on that. But the independent living service, how does that work out? How do you determine what's needed and so forth?
Well, first thing, when we meet with a veteran, we first thing we do, are you entitled? If the answer is yes, then is it feasible for you to work? In other words, is your disability too severe for you to work? If it is, then we offer you independent living services.
Oh, see, okay.
Right. So, if your situation is so severe that you can't work, then we're doing an evaluation to see if you have a need first.
I got you.
Then, if you have a need, then we'll provide that services to you.
And then you have to. Every situation is different.
Yeah, every situation is different. Once we provide the equipment or services that you need, then we'll monitor you for 60 days, and we'll close out the case as a successful rehabilitation.
Well, that's
it's a lot there. Some very valuable programs.
Hughes, you got that right. That is just great. Herbert Morris, you're really giving us some great information here, because I guess it's safe to say that there, as far as veteran coming out, there isn't anything that you can't address.
I mean, this program is here for you. I mean, when I found this is the best thing that happened to me. I have no regrets about not going to college while I was in the military, because everything worked out just perfect for me after I left the military. So it's a great program. Great program.
That's wonderful. Mr. Turner, what else do we need to talk about?
Well, again, it's eligibility is important, and I always try to close out with a reminder for those individuals who are departing the military to ensure that they get a copy of their personnel records.
That's right.
And their medical records, because it's all about documentation. And sometimes things get misplaced. I haven't seen anybody that tries to intentionally, misplace anybody's records. But sometimes those things happen, and at least a veteran who has taken the time to obtain a copy of their personnel records and the medical records will have that documentation with them.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely critical.
Because that's going to be asked for right away.
Yes.
Yeah, we've certainly gone through that. That's I just think that this is why America's Heroes Group is so pleased to have our connection we have with the VA, because a lot of folks would never get this information. As a veteran, all of these things that I found out about, I didn't know about. And so it's an amazing thing.
Well, it's been an evolution too. I mean, not dating us on here, but
yeah, right.
Depending on when we left service,
yeah.
Some of the programs now are more robust.
Sure, okay.
Is a good way of characterizing it.
Yeah, right.
And so and I think that the veterans that are leaving the service now are a little more aware of a lot of the benefits that are out there, much more so than previous generations. And in particular, when you look at the Vietnam generation, Korean War generation, and World War II generation, the ones that are getting out now are much more savvy, I think, in terms of an appreciation for those benefits that are out there for them.
Well, I would agree with that.
Yep.
That's exactly right. How are we doing on numbers as far as people coming into the service?
Well, as far as Voc Rehab, we're on a slight decline, and I guess it's because of part of it is because of the GI Bill. Okay, a lot of them don't want somebody to monitor them on a monthly basis, that kind of thing. But we're working on that. We're really trying to get the word out, and we're doing things like this to make sure the information get out so the veterans get the word. We do a lot of outreach to make sure we're getting the word out to veterans that we're here to help you. We want to help you, but you got to come in and see us. You have to apply, bring all your documentation in when you come in. Let us know. So we need to know every issue you have so we can help you. There's no need in trying to hide the information from us. That's what we need to help you.
That's right.
If we don't know, we can't help you.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, Brother Turner, do we have any? I don't know whether you all would even have the use of that. I'm just wondering how many people are enlisting as compared to.
Yeah, that's beyond our scope.
I know it is. I didn't know
of information, but the
readings. You're so bright. I just think you know everything.
Well, I don't want to misinform the public, and that's probably not a true statement from Cliff Kelly. But anyway, the one thing that I have read is that it's becoming increasingly more difficult of late to recruit. Okay. And a lot of that has to do with the current job market.
Yeah. Okay.
And when the job market is very strong in the private sector, it becomes more difficult, I think, as a general rule, to recruit folks into the uniformed services. And I think we're seeing that now.
That doesn't have anything to do with the present commander-in-chief, I'm sure. Everybody's smiling. Okay, you folks are great. You really are. You're great. Thank you, Hughes, Turner, as always. Herbert, Morris, keep up the great work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, it's great work.
Stay
with us now. We'll be back with